Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the Live Your Jam podcast. My name is Ellen McGinnis, and I'm your host. So far on the podcast, we've heard inspiring stories of people making both big and small pivots by following the calling of their soul and living from the inside out. We've explored how energy guides us and how to trust the inner quiet, those signals of energy that we can sense long before they become visible in our lives. Today, we're going to jump into the tools to help you trust your inner wisdom. Practical ways to listen, align, and co-create with the universe. Specifically, those tools are ancient tools and the tools of astrology and tarot. I use these tools all the time, and our guest I have referred clients to and always try to turn my clients on to. And so I use these tools and recommend them to my clients as well. So just remember, you're not alone on this journey to follow your inner wisdom and build a deeper connection with your soul and highest self. You have us here at Live Your Jam, as well as the tools we're going to discuss today that have been used since the beginning of time. In this episode, we're going to explore these ancient tools that help us navigate modern life with grace and clarity. My guest, Vivian, also known as the Green Lion Goddess, is a spiritual guide, intuitive, and astrologer who weaves together tarot, astrology, and energy work to help others connect with their soul's wisdom. Together, we're going to talk about how to read life signs, trust your inner compass, and align with the natural rhythms of the universe. If you've ever wondered how to work with these sacred tools, not to predict your future, but to partner with it, this conversation will open your heart to the language of intuition and the living energy that guides us all. So I am thrilled that she said yes. Welcome, Vivian. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Ellen. I'm very excited to be here today, and thank you for inviting me on the podcast. I'm excited to get into this topic.
I am as well, and I'm so excited to learn from you. Vivian is joining us from our other hemisphere. You're outside of Sydney, right?
Yeah, I'm in Australia, just north of Sydney. So, yeah, different time zone.
Different.
We're moving into summer now.
She's in summer and a day ahead of us. I'm so excited to learn more, Vivian, about you and how you became a spiritual teacher. So at the beginning, I just want to know more about you and have our listeners understand, what your beginning journey was and how you came to this role as a teacher and a guide to others.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to pinpoint where it actually began because I think when you're on this journey, you start at various points in your life. It's not just the moment you start teaching. I was always working with the unseen as a child. I always loved playing with that. I was one of the lucky ones that it didn't get shut down by any kind of parent. I see that so much with my clients that they really connected as children, but then something happens, they have an experience that's either scary or an adult teaches them or tells them it's not right, doesn't validate what they're experiencing. And I was lucky enough to still grow up really connected to that, even though I did go down the path of learning about religion and things like that, but I just always knew there was more to the world. And so I went through life pretty much pretending to be normal, depending on how you define normal, for a long time, because my version of normal is very different now. And did the usual things, studied, finished school, went to university, got a normal job. And I was just at the point where a lot of my clients are, where they're in a job and they just really hate it. They either hate the boss or they hate the people they're working with, or they're just not happy with that. And that happened to me. And one day I just saw that this was happening on YouTube, Green Lion Goddess. I had actually worked with energy healing before that. I was doing it for many years before that. And I just went, I can do that. And I just started doing it. And 6 years later, I never stopped. I just went, this is going to get me out of this position. I hate working for this person. I want to work for myself. I want to live this spiritual life. And I just did it without even thinking.
That's amazing. Had you studied astrology before? Because I know you studied Reiki, you studied tarot, but was the astrology, when did that come in?
That came in after Green Lion started, actually.
Interesting, because you're so good at it. I mean, you've been doing this for a while, but it's incredible that it came later and you just followed that.
When I discovered astrology, it was like this door opened and I was like, oh my gosh, I could spend a lifetime, and I quite literally do, learning about this. The first time I saw my natal chart, I was like, it was like magic. And then you could go into the planets, into the aspects, so deep into it. There's just a lifelong of study and working with this. But when I first started, I didn't know that much. I knew a little bit. I knew I was a Leo, and that's about it. I didn't know
Yeah.
anything else. I
Yeah.
didn't know my rising sign or my moon sign or anything.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. So there was no real defining moment. I hear this from a lot of people. Children, they're often telepathic with animals, right? Or they can sense spirit, or they're very aware of what might be the 5D world, right? That we're not just humans, that we are more, and there is a whole universe around us. So that was never shut down for you. So you were able to kind of grow and build and trust in that. And it was always with you?
Yeah, I was one of the lucky ones that I was able to do that. But
Yeah.
if you want to go to defining moments, there probably were, I'd say, three defining moments that I think the universe gives you nudges. You know, it's
Yes.
always there in the background, and you start getting these little, come
Yeah.
on, okay, this
Yeah.
way, this direction. The first one was when I was a teenager, actually, and my father died. And that was a really, really difficult time for myself and my family. And that was when I discovered tarot. That's when I found my first deck, and that helped me with a lot of the deeper answers, the questions, even emotional support, spiritual support that I wasn't getting at the time, because a lot of my other family members just shut down as well. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to cope with it. And, so I turned to tarot at that point, and it has become my little lifelong companion since then to help me through the harder times or just the easy times, all times basically. It doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, easy, hard. So that was the first time that I really probably went down the tarot path. The second one would have been the birth of my son. I'm suddenly realizing now that I'm telling this story, there's death, birth. We're going through the
Well, yeah,
transformation
interesting. Yes.
cycles. I
Yeah.
never realized that before, but the second one was probably the birth of my son, and I took time out from my career because I just wanted to spend time with him. And that's when I started up. I had a little shed. I started a little healing meditation group, and I started doing the Reiki and doing the energy healing at that point. And then the third time was the time that I spoke to you earlier, where I was in my 40s by that stage, returning back to work after a mum, having time out, which is always hard, and realizing I can't work for these other people anymore, and just them being so horrible. I started my practice full time then. That was the thing that propelled me into doing this as a career, really. So they were the three defining moments, and they're things I see really common in terms of what might be defining moments for people, were things like birth, death, hating their jobs, a big shift of career. The only thing that's not in there that I didn't experience was like a major divorce or relationship breakup.
It is often in life's big transitions that, well, we actually really need the connection to ourselves to help us through them. So it would make sense that we would deepen it during those times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a myth that, you do this spiritual work and they call it the spiritual bypassing, like, oh, everything's all love and roses. And it is when you get up to those higher realms and you connect back in with the truth of who you are. But the whole point of doing this work is to help us through everything so that you remain connected even in the hard times. It makes it so much easier to be calm and move smoothly through those challenging times. And you can still enjoy the joy and the happiness. You still become very present and go, I know that I have to be really happy in this moment, because it could change at any point. I guess it's like a lens in which you can experience life that just makes it richer and fuller and brings more colour to life, pretty much. So,
That's a really beautiful explanation, because one of the things I say about Live Your Jam, or trusting your intuition and living life from the inside out, is that it's a journey. It's not really a destination. As I've done this work, I've become more fulfilled. It doesn't mean that problems and challenges don't come. It's my trust in myself and my ability to get through, and also my partnering with the universe, that has
yeah.
really blossomed. I do not feel alone. I always feel that I am with spirit and in connection. Not always, that's not true. Like sometimes my head does take over and I'm like, but I can get myself
Yeah.
back to that place of connection. So I really love the way that you said that. It's a really beautiful way to live.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that point that you said, that you never feel alone, because I think there's like an epidemic of loneliness out there. A lot of
Yes.
people are
Yes.
feeling really just disconnected and alone. And It doesn't mean that if you are living alone that you're not going to have those moments of loneliness. You still will, but it gives you something that you could move towards and feel more connected for most of the time anyway.
Or a source that you can go back to, even, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Really defining moments in terms of you deciding that you're going to use those natural gifts that we all have, that if, when we continue to practice, because you are incredibly gifted, Vivian, and you can tell it's like a muscle that you have really strengthened and used and now is pretty profound. So, from
Thank you.
childhood and then those defining moments in your life that you're like, this is it for me. So why Green Line Goddess? What is the symbolism behind the name?
Well, it's funny, the way I think intuition works sometimes is when your conscious mind gets out of the way and just kind of don't even think about it sometimes. And I didn't think much of the name, to be honest. I was just having a bit of fun with it at that point. Green is my favorite color because I have a very strong connection to nature. That if anyone follows my channel or my work, they know that. I'm always talking about connections to whales and plants and animals. That's something that just really grounds me into the practice. I love feeling connected to the earth. So green was my favorite color. Lion, I'm a Leo.
Yeah.
And goddess, I thought, you know what?
Yeah, you're that
Anyone
too.
who's a woman or identifies as a woman, they should claim that. They should be able to say they're a goddess. The funny thing about that was, like I mentioned, I didn't know my natal chart when I first started the channel. But when I did discover it, and this was about 5 years later, I discovered that in the astrology chart there is a particular house that represents your career, the thing that you're most known for and people will see you for. And I have one planet in there, which happens to be Mars. And when I got to know this planet one time, I see that it's conjunct this particular fixed star called Regulus, which represents lion. And it also represents one of the royal stars, one of the archangels. It represents Raphael, which Raphael is heart healing, and the colour of Raphael's healing is green.
Wow.
So it quite literally was
Yeah.
up there in my astrology chart. My Mars, which represents my career and what I'm known for, green lion, was there. And I was just like gobsmacked when I put those two things together, because this is what's so amazing about intuition. So there's a part of me that knew that, but I consciously wasn't aware of it. I hadn't even seen my natal chart when I first started this. And yet it was there in my chart.
It's chilling. And then it's also so reassuring. It's like, of course.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I chose the right
So
name. That's
beautiful.
the right thing.
Were there any teachers or mentors on your path, or was it really just you, as you saying, developing your gifts and deciding to kind of take this journey yourself?
I would say, when I was a child, I went to Sunday school. We learnt about the Anglican religion. And in many ways, even though I didn't go down that path, that was probably my first initial guide in a way. And then later, tarot, I've never had a guide. I've just used and learnt it myself. I think that's a wonderful way to do it, but there's plenty of guides out there nowadays. And with the energy healing, there was a wonderful lady in Sydney when I used to live in Sydney who was doing these energy healings and teaching it, had these healing groups. And I also studied Reiki in Sydney. So that's how it evolved. But I always had my own experience. It was like, oh, you believe this, or I can go connect to that. And I would visit it and then come back to how I really felt about it, my own way of interpreting it. So I've just visited these belief systems and these modalities and then kind of brought it back into a way that worked for me.
For you.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I studied lots of things like Buddhism, went down a big path of trying to work out what happens after you die with the experience that happened with my father. Just what is the point of life? What is the meaning of life? I went through a lot of learning about different religions, having experiences overseas as well, and just my own experiences. So I just think life is your teacher, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But there was one in particular, a mentor in Sydney, who was probably the one that guided me the most.
Yeah, I like your looking at different religions and being open-minded and be like, what's useful for me here? And what do I want to integrate and what resonates? And because there is a lot of, there's myth in everything, and then religion has a lot of myth in it. And some of those stories actually link to the tarot and to clearly the archetypes are universal. There's many religious archetypes. I just to talk
Yeah.
about the Hierophant, right? There's so much there, right, in terms of the
Yeah.
symbolism. So let's start with Tarot. I really appreciated hearing your origin story and so how you came to help because you have a big following. You really put out some amazing work, and I know you teach as well. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's just start with Tarot. I mean, they're both very very popular, but there's a lot of misunderstanding about tarot. One that I can think of just off the top of my head is that it doesn't predict the future. People are like, oh, you don't trust and you're predicting the future. And I don't think it predicts the future per se. And it's not just a deck of cards, it's a symbolic map of the human journey. And in the tarot, each card represents an archetype, a pattern or experience that we all encounter throughout our lives. That's what is so beautiful about it. And it's reflecting that energy we're either experiencing or could potentially experience. So does that line up? I mean, I think the tarot reflects where we are in our own human story. And because of the universality of many of the archetypes, it just shows us what we're learning or what we're ready to release and what part of ourselves is asking to be seen or integrated. I just find it to be a mirror, really. How do you see it, Vivian? How do you describe tarot to people?
Well, it's a beautifully complex thing. I think you can use it in two ways. You can use it to predict the future if you wanted to, or you can use it as a self-reflection tool, which is probably the more powerful way. And like you said, some of the cards, the major arcanas, represent archetype. And so
Yes.
they are this psychological fool's journey, the journey of the soul. And we might find ourselves at these different powerful stages of life. And so you can use the cards to reflect on where you're at and where you're going and receive advice and use it as soul growth. And so it's rich and laden with symbolism, rich and laden with psychology and meaning. The cards themselves, I think they are just a deck of cards. They're
Oh,
artworks on
interesting.
paper.
Yeah.
And it's how we respond to them, how we connect to them is what creates the magic. So I will look at a beautiful rose and fool's going off the cliff holding a white rose, and I might be really, attracted or drawn into that white rose. That is meaning something to me, or it's triggering something within me. It's an innocent new beginning that needs to move with naivety and connect to your inner child, jumping into something new and feeling spontaneous in the moment. And so this is where the symbols can really tell us so much about ourselves. And so the magic of tarot, where actually the magic, it's a beautiful conversation with yourself. And so if you're scared of what's happening in tarot, if you're scared of what's happening in the future, this is you scared of having that conversation with yourself and going deeper into yourself.
Yeah.
And in terms of the future energy, like this is such a complicated one. Sometimes that will tell you things that you're not expecting. But where you're at this moment in time, we're like a whole heap of energies and patterns that are more likely to go somewhere in the near future. And so tarot can predict that. Okay, this is where you might be going, or this is what might happen to you based on where you're at now and what's happening for you now. So it starts with where you're at right now. And yeah, so that's how I see it. I do see that there's nothing evil or scary about it. It really is just a beautiful conversation with yourself. And the future can change. If at any given moment you respond differently or you shift your energy, then your future energy can shift and change as well. So when I do readings for people, I tend to go a bit deeper under the surface. I don't really enjoy doing the readings where they're like, I'm going to sell my house and how much am I going to sell it for and when is
Right.
it going to
No, yeah, I
sell?
can't see that really being your ideal clientele. Yeah. I mean,
It's not,
no offense
yeah.
to anybody, but as a spiritual teacher, I can understand you wanting to go deeper.
Yeah, well, I think I like to ask the question, well, why are you selling your house? What's going on a deeper soul level? What's happening here? What's evolving for you?
Yeah.
Why is this happening to you? And so that's why I kind of like to go under. And I think that's the gold where tarot can really help you understand the why, not necessarily the what's going to happen, but more
Right.
why is it happening for me? What's going on deep inside of me? And what am I learning from this experience?
Right.
How is my soul evolving and growing? And so tarot, I've actually got a couple here. I
Oh,
picked
wonderful.
a couple of cards. This is a way you can use it. I was like, okay, I'm having a discussion today with Ellen. Give me some advice. What sort of energy should I be bringing? And so I've got these two cards. These were the ones I pulled out, the Three of Pentacles and the Hanged Man. And the thing is that you will look at these and get your own different version, your own different meanings, and I'm having a different response to it. And I actually, to be honest, I don't know what they mean yet. I'm waiting for that to evolve as we move through the discussion, because that's how intuition works. It's like a river that evolves in a non-linear way, and it will reveal itself to me. And at some point, I'll be like, aha, that's why the Hanged Man came out today. So I'm just kind of open, very open, going, right, okay. It didn't immediately, sometimes the meanings immediately come to you, and this one didn't. But that doesn't mean that it won't come. It just means I'm sitting with it until it starts flowing through and I start understanding. I might not understand what that means until after this call. But that's why it kind of is such a beautiful timeline, tarot, because it may be after we get off this call that these cards start talking to me and I start understanding something deeper. And so this is why I think, like you said, it's not a destination, it's a journey, and that's the best way to be working with it. And so we all have our little individual relationships with cards, and it's learning a language, a new language, because they're very visual, they're little artworks with stories and images and symbols, and they represent archetypes. There's so much in them, and how you respond and what they mean in your life is the important thing. So that is my tarot in a nutshell.
Well, I think that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that with the Hangman and the Three of Pentacles, that, you didn't get anything immediately and you're gonna sit with it and see what comes up. I mean, I wouldn't have given myself that much permission. I probably would have just kept looking at it. I do ask my friends sometimes. I do readings for my friends and family, and I'll say, when I don't really know, I'm like, "What's it saying to you?" I'll say, "I'm getting this, but really when you look at this card, what do you think?" So let's talk
Yeah.
about that then. If somebody's just beginning with tarot, let's say they get a deck, how can they use that to connect with their intuition or soul guidance?
Yeah, well, there's so much they can do. I just loved your story that you just told then, that when you say, so these particular cards are based on the Greek myths. What do you get from this card is a really important thing, because sometimes if I get really blocked with tarot at the beginning, I'll just start telling the story. This is the story of Prometheus, who gave fire to the earth and got punished for it. So it's a story about punishment. And then something gets triggered within them or within you as you're doing the reading, and it just opens up your intuition in that way. So if you're beginning, I want to let you know with the tarot that it might look like there's lots of cards in a tarot deck. You don't actually have to memorize all of them to start with your intuition. You don't have to be psychic or feel like you have these amazing intuitive gifts to begin. Everyone is intuitive. It's just a part of us. It's part of our mind. We have the intuition that lives within our mind. It's just a matter of accessing it and working with it and opening up with it. And tarot itself, when you first begin, there's actually a system. There's a little mathematical formula that you can learn that just helps you work with the cards straight away. And I teach this in my Tarot 101 course. So when you're first starting, it really is about just trusting that very first thing that you're getting, rather than feeling overwhelmed with, I have to learn the meanings of all these cards. Break it down into something easier. The intuition's just a doorway. It's just like opening a little door. So you might get, say, the Three of Pentacles, this card, and you get, okay, the word help. I need help. That might be the very first word that you get, and that opens the door to following your intuition. Or you might just go, I'm really drawn to this eagle here. My eye goes to that spot. And then you can go, okay, the eagle, what does the eagle mean for me? And so it's like a little journey of discovery. You
Mhm.
have to, it's like, have an open and curious mind, because the way intuition works is different for everyone. It works through your body. So you'll get different sensory experiences. Some people see things, some people hear things, some people are really connected to the story, and just go with whatever feels right. Like you said, it's about giving yourself permission to just listen to what feels right for you, not what someone else says you think you should be doing. or what the guidebook says this should mean, or what someone else says, you can't do this. There's no rules in tarot other than the rules that you set for yourself. And giving yourself that open and curious permission piece to just go exploring and understand that it really is about you and how you're responding to something and the messages you're getting. And that just opens this beautiful door, this journey of intuition. And then you play with it and they have fun. And I find when you first start with tarot, the universe will give you some easy wins just to encourage you along the way. Something that goes, oh, yes, I got that. And now it makes sense. And it'll be like, yes, you can trust your intuition. So it's really about just this beautiful journey of learning to trust at first and not being scared of that. And yeah, just really enjoying the process. So
Yeah.
that would be
Beautiful.
my advice at first. And to see that it is you're opening a door to connecting in on a deeper level to your own soul and your own soul's guidance. And to just see how that starts moving through your life and how it starts. I love the word you used earlier at the very beginning, fulfilling. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily happiness, but it's fulfilling. And so, yeah, just see how that starts flowing through your life. And it's just a beautiful adventure, a journey of discovery. So and you can buy your own deck and just start working with it yourself. There's plenty of courses out there. There's so many different ways that you can just start with tarot and make it really easy to begin with it.
My friend Julie has your Tarot 101 course, or your teaching tarot course, and loves that. And so I think for anybody, there's resources out there. Vivian's content and instruction is very high quality. But also, what I did was just I pull one a day and just started to familiarize myself with the deck. And it's much like,
Yeah.
a lot of these tools for inner wisdom and trusting yourself, the key is to get out of your head. I've taken meditation classes where everybody's asking the teacher, am I doing it right? And just the nature of that question, without meaning any disrespect, the answer is no, because you're
Yeah.
not supposed to be thinking about it. And so, even
Yeah.
with tarot, what you have to do in the beginning is just be like, it's all okay. And I think sometimes that's another misconception. When you say it's all okay, then people are like, well, then if it's everything or nothing, then what is it? And the part is, well, where you as a child know that you're trusting your intuition, listening to your inner guidance, society, and experiences, even if some people see spirits or have connections to the 5D world, that can be very scary. And so they'll cut it off. And most of us are trained in society to cut it off, right? Because we don't value that. In ancient traditions, they did. So I love what you're saying about tarot, is that just to kind of take the imprint of what it means to you and go with the first thing and ride that, because that builds the muscle. And then you'll get better at, you can take a course or whatever, because that's helpful as well, right? But just to begin, I love what you're telling people is just look at it, see how it means to you, and then trust that.
Yeah, exactly. And you can start off a bit logically if you want to.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
like I
good.
said, there is a little formula that works with tarot, but that's the starting point. And I loved actually your point about just start pulling a card a day and
Yeah.
just
No.
seeing what that means and take off the expectations that you have to get the meaning straight away. I've been doing this for years and I pulled these two cards and I
Yeah.
still don't know what that means. So, but I'm sitting with it. Let go of expectation of when you're going to get that meaning, how it's going to happen, and just be open.
For me, the Three of Pentacles is a card of teamwork, so I was immediately always working alone. I'm like, "Yay, Vivian's on my team." That's what I was thinking. We're teaming
Well,
together to help people. So I was excited because I'm like, "Oh gosh, if I get the Hermit one more time." Yeah, no, so that's I have to think about the Hangman because it's a shift of perspective, but I like the
Well,
Eagle.
I was just going to say, I just had a shift of perspective as you were saying that. I'm like, oh, maybe these aren't necessarily just for me. It's about both of us, what we're co creating. It's a message for you as well. And I
Yeah.
shifted my perspective. So, teamwork and shift of perspective. There you go. And you got it. So, well done. Congratulations.
Well,
It's,
when you
yeah.
said the eagle, I think about that, about how high they fly and how their view is so vast and wide, right? And sometimes I tell myself when I get bogged down in something, like take the higher view, Ellen, go up higher and look more broadly. And maybe hopefully we're reaching people all over the world with our high view. But
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And yeah,
good.
exactly. And the other thing with the eagle is I always see the eagle as like a soul energy, almost like a
Mm,
shamanic energy as well. And the hangman is about letting go of something, a shift of perspective. So
yeah,
it can also be saying, like you said, it's a sacrifice of letting go of punishing yourself with this particular card. So it may be let go of punishing yourself on your soul journey. Perhaps that's something that
mm,
might be a message that someone else needs to receive
yeah,
because we've got the Three of Pentacles. So there's a group energy here. So instead of going, oh, I have to do it this right way, I have to learn tarot this right way, or I've got to this point and I haven't done this and haven't done that, stop punishing yourself for where your soul is always bringing you to where you're meant to be at this right
yeah.
period of time. And instead of being hard on yourself, go within and go, okay, where am I at this moment in time? And sit with that. There you go. And
That
this
might
is
have
how
been for me.
it
I think I
happens.
needed to hear that today. Yeah, that's lovely. That's a great example of what tarot can do is when we're kind of
Yeah.
grinding at the human level. And I always say this to my friends when we're sitting down doing it, I have everybody talk about what they want to discuss with the tarot because it elevates the conversation. It's not about I want to sell the houses and I'm going to go for this. It's I'm closing a chapter. They'll start talking about the human thing, right? And
Mm.
then all of a sudden the conversation will shift shape into this deeper conversation of I'm recognizing that the kids are gone and it's the end of a transition in my life. And yeah, at one level, I'm worried about how much I'm curious about how much the house is going to sell for, but it's not a real need. So let's get down to what this really means. Or maybe it is a real
Mm.
need, but I'm living in lack and let's not do that. But I always say it elevates the conversation. And so when we're together, there's a connection that happens because we're talking in real and meaningful ways versus the kind of topical things. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things I love about it, and then I just feel like I've had a sweet connection with people, it's yeah, it's probably true, it's like soul resonance, right?
Absolutely. It's what happens. And it's what shows, like you said, how does this affect somebody on a soul level? Like it's not just like, okay, I brought this and this is going to be my meaning. You had your meaning. We've created a soul
Right.
resonance. We've potentially
Yes.
created a soul
Yeah.
resonance with somebody else. It
Alright.
it gives a lot.
It
So
does give a
yeah.
lot. Is there a story or a reading that you can share that profoundly shifted your own perspective or someone else's? I mean, is there any you've worked with many, many people, but is there any one that sticks out? Not even for the naysayers, but just to illuminate a shift in perspective that you've seen for people? Someone?
Well, I think in terms of the readings I've done, like you said, I've done thousands of readings. There's a general theme that comes in that shifts them, a general experience that happens. Doesn't happen to everybody, but if you really kind of get it right for them, they say, I feel seen. I feel
Mm,
like you've seen me and no one's ever seen me before. And that makes me question, why do they not feel seen in their life? What's
mm,
going on for them? That
mhm,
they're not feeling seen on this kind of deeper level. Maybe they see themselves, but the people around them don't see that. And so that starts this deeper question, but it's this energy of I feel seen because we've gone to that deeper level. And in terms of like just one thing that really shifted my perspective, it was actually in an energy healing one time. And I was working with this client, and she had this very dark energy. And that's normal, it happens in most healings, it comes up and out. But this was like blanket black, like sociopathic dark. It was a different energy. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, is she like sociopath? How am I going to work with her kind of thing?
yeah,
And
mhm,
then I was like, I don't know if I can budge this energy. And she'd actually gone through a lot of trauma. So I feel like I was trying to work out, is this trauma related or sociopathic? Sometimes it was just so dark. And I thought, well, all I can do is sit with her and go where intuitively I get guided to move through the layers. And I thought, I just don't know if I'm going to break through with this client and it's just going to be pure darkness. And what happened is we ended up moving through the layers. And at the end, the darkness left and it was just this beautiful white light. And that happens with most clients at the end of a healing. But with this one, because it was the sociopathic darkness, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know if that's going to shift. And it did. And it made me realize to take away a lot of my judgment with people, to remove some judgment that no matter how dark or what we hold within us, we can always get to that light. It's still there within all of us, this beautiful white light. And that for me was like, okay, don't judge people too much. I had to release the judgment there and just go, okay, so not everyone comes to be awoken. Some people are choosing to play a role in this lifetime. But even underneath that, there's still the light when we get to their soul essence. So that was very profound for me at the time. It was profound for her too. But yeah, it was she when she came out going, I never knew I could feel this way. But yeah, that was a really interesting little shift on my path just to go through that and see it, firsthand as an experience through a client session. We get told that, we're all the light, we're all one underneath, but I like to work with it, to actually investigate myself, to get my own answers, to see it for myself so that I can, oh yeah, that's true. That was the shift.
And thank you for sharing
So
that. What I want to say about that is how we do our own, you're saying our own, like the psychotic energy or whatever the energy was, the dark energy too, like how we're kind of trained that that's bad, right? And that it might not go away. And so I really appreciate that, you hung in there and then you had the lesson and the reflection for yourself too. Yeah, because things can get stuck or we can pick up other people's energy, so it can happen. So let's
yeah.
move on to astrology. Tarot I'm fairly comfortable with, and astrology I'm not as comfortable with. I certainly am comfortable with my natal chart,
Mhm.
but learning everybody else's I'm still diving into that. So when I look at astrology, I'll speak from my own experience. I just think it's my natural design. When I was born, it was a certain time and place in the world, and there's an energetic imprint of that time. And so, I'm a Leo too. We share that. And so, I mean, Leos do have a certain, soul imprint, right? I tend to like the sun, I'm outgoing, I'm positive, I have a huge heart, I'm compassionate. I don't mind the stage, I don't always want it. I mean, I've had to work through that because I have a lot of cancer in me. But anyway,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
planets, the elements, the archetypes, they reflect different aspects of who we are. When I got to look at my natal chart and understand things, it shows my strengths and potentially the lessons my soul needs to learn. I'm a overgiver. I'm a very strong person when I'm Cancer moon and Cancer rising. And so my
Mhm.
life lesson has really been how to take care of myself first versus others. So, and there
Yeah.
are many others. There are places where I'm supposed to grow and expand, and astrology has helped me greatly with that. It
Mm.
doesn't tell me who to be, it helps me remember who I am. So, you're
Yes.
an expert
Yes.
in astrology. I mean, do you agree with that view, or how do you talk to others about astrology, Vivian?
Well, I think it's so hard to just put astrology
It
into a
is.
box
It is.
and to define it as that because there's so many different ways you can work with the natal chart. So the birth chart is like a little map of where the planets were when you were born. And like you said, it creates a resonance, it creates an energy, it has all the planets, it has a whole heap of different points and how they all relate to each other and where they are on the chart. Each chart represents a different aspect of somebody's lives, is very complicated. Very, very complicated. It's a lifelong journey of, okay, why is my Mars squaring my Uranus? What does that mean? You might have an initial understanding of how that represents your personality and who you are in your life. But then it creates more and more layers because that could also be, okay, that is a transit that means you're ready to move, you're about to move house. So it can happen on so many different layers. It can be predictive as well. You can time your life with it. So I can look at when I'm going to launch something or do a reading and go, okay, this is really good energy for me to be doing it on this day. So I'll follow that. So you learn so much about you can time your life with it. It also gives you great understanding about what's going on with your life. So there's two things. There's the natal chart, which is like a beautiful blueprint of who you are. And each planet and each aspect, you can learn so much as you move through life. As you evolve, your understanding of your natal chart will evolve. And that's where you go through this beautiful soul growth lessons. It brings it to you. Each planet has a lower frequency and a higher frequency. And I believe as we go through our soul lessons, we move through to the evolution of the higher frequency. So that's evolutionary astrology, where we're moving through these soul growth lessons and we're evolving as we go through the aspects of our natal chart. Plus, also, there's the transits, what's happening with the planets now and how they're affecting us, and those aspects in our natal charts as well. So there's that. And then there's more of an ancient Hellenistic way of looking at it. I mean, it's so complicated, which could be that things are more fated in a way, and that it's more predictive, that this might happen, that might happen for you here and then. This whole thing of fate versus free will and how you evolve through the chart, there are like huge schools of thought that sort of oppose each other or work with each other, even within astrologers. So it's just extraordinary that your understanding of your Leo sun could totally shift and change with a particular transit or aspect that comes in. Or you might understand on a deeper level that the sun's relationship to all the beautiful Cancer that you have in your chart, you might get a sense of, okay, it's about overgiving now, but maybe something deeper in 2 years' time comes in and you're like, now I understand this even more. I'm going deeper into it. My soul's giving me the understanding. And so there are, like I said, it brings you back to who you are, and it is like a blueprint of where you're evolving and how you're evolving. It can point you towards purpose. But a lot of people will do a reading and say, what's my life purpose? And I think it's up to them to work it out in a way. So I tend to just point them in the direction and give them things that might get them thinking about it a little bit more, rather than saying you're meant to be sitting on a hill in the Himalayas and writing a novel about this. You make it a little bit more generic so it creates way for them to find that path themselves.
It's a big answer to what is astrology. I mean, maybe some people call it a language. There's, Vedic astrology, there's Western astrology. I think what I really liked about your answer is there's the natal chart and then there's the transits. And I think the natal chart gives us a lot of information about who we are. And then, as you're saying, the transits as life is going, because your natal chart, your sun is your core essence and your vitality, your sun sign. And most of us know that's their birthday, right? The rising sign is like how we appear in life, the part that of us that I think people feel first. So it's kind of like our external personality, if you will.
It's a hard one to kind of get your head around a little bit. It's also the lens in which you see the world. I
Mm.
always see it, it's like the sign that's rising when you first come into the world. So it's like if it's Cancer, you're starting to see the world through the lens of a Cancer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And people start seeing you in that way as well. How you perceive others and perceive the world and how they perceive you, it's all interrelated, really.
Right.
So that's the
Right.
rising sign. And you can
Yeah.
tell a lot about just its initial first impressions as well.
Yeah.
Rising sign,
Exactly.
it's your body, how I first see you.
And then the moon is your emotional landscape and kind of your needs. And I do find that the three of them together have really helped me kind of understand my composition and what I always, it's like personality, and I talk about styles. It's like what I'm most comfortable in. It's easy for me to be a Cancer and a Leo. I'm comfortable there. When I have to stretch into the other energies, sometimes it's harder. And I think that's a distinction I want to make for people. The planets, we did an episode on energy, and I'm going to do a couple on them because it's such a big topic. But the planets themselves hold energy. Everything has
Oh,
energy.
yeah.
So
Yep.
when you're talking about the high and low ones in terms of the depth, right? In terms of like there's a almost a bright side or a highest or bright part and a shadow side to the planet of the energy, high vibe, low vibe. And that imprint that we're talking about is just that energy is within us because we were born at that time. And if everything's all connected, this all makes sense. So the transits are where it starts to impact our personal evolution. And that's where experts like you are definitely needed. And I think they can be helpful for people in times of transitions or awakenings. Do you find that people are coming to you really for tarot and astrology insights when they're in some sort of big life transition? Is that usually when, and then it links up, of course, what's going on in their chart with the transits? Yes.
Yeah, it's so funny how it happens. So, if we're going through a nice period of astrology and everything's flowing, not as many people
Yeah.
book in. As soon as
Right.
we hit like some sort of gnarly like transit, or we're going through eclipse season, well, they're all booking in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find there's patterns, like I'll look at who's booking in today. Everyone's was born in 1955. I'm like, well, there was something. I had a day the other day that everyone was born either 1955, 1956. So I'm like, something happened on that day that they all booked in that
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
affected that particular age. You'll
Right.
get a day where they're all Virgos booking in, or
Oh
it's all
gosh. Yeah.
Libras. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it just, you
Yeah.
see the patterns. It's quite fascinating. But yeah, like it's really handy with the transits. Like the other day, I was just having a happy day. I was perfectly happy, boom, 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 going on with my day. Then suddenly I got an email and a message all at once. And then boom, it just hit me. Like suddenly I was in this emotionally intense place. I don't normally get triggered by that sort of stuff. And it put me in a bit of a tailspin. And I was like, what is going on? And then I was like, I bet the moon's moved into Aquarius. It's conjunct Pluto. And sure enough, I went and checked it. It was right on. I knew it was moving in at some point that
Yeah.
day. And I
Yeah.
was like, boom, the moon was conjunct Pluto. Pluto's a planet of intensity. Moon is your emotions. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And it was good because I was like, okay, you can think about it. The moon is your emotions. What's emotionally coming up? Pluto is the things that lie there in the shadows that can be there underlying for a long time, but just there in your life, some kind of underlying truth or something hidden that you need to like look into, or your relationship to your own power with Pluto. And then suddenly a big thing like the moon comes in and illuminates something, and you're having a reaction. And then you can go, okay, well, what am I learning from this? What I understand the qualities of Pluto. It takes me down into the underworld, into those hidden layers, showing me some kind of truth. What is the truth that I'm learning here? What got triggered? Because it's there underlying all along until this conjunction came along, and then it intensified. And plus also knowing it's the moon, I'm like, in a couple of hours, it's going to move past that point. I'm going to feel a lot better. And it was just a very short, intense spike at that moment. And then the next day back to normal. So it was good to have the knowledge of the timing of the transit, plus also the understanding of, okay, I'm being really triggered by this. Why? What's going on for me, and what am I learning through this? And that's just a small example of how you can use astrology in terms of the transits and how they can affect you. And yeah, you can, again, it's that everything, like you said, is just an evolution of soul growth and a soul journey, and things get revealed to you along the way. Oh, I didn't realize I really cared about that, or that was going to have an effect on me. And then you can kind of go deeper into that if you want to. You can completely go, oh, that was a bad day, move on, never think about it ever again if you wanted to. But that's why the knowledge of astrology gives you so much more that you can work with.
Yeah, that's
So,
a really lovely example of how you can evolve and grow spiritually using it and using your curiosity, to say, is there something here for me or not? Sometimes I'm like, no, I don't really want to do any more work on this. But you can ask the question and then decide, right? Because sometimes, like, well, there is more here for me. I loved that example that you just gave on a very, very simple one. I want to ask you, what's one message astrology is whispering to humanity right now?
well, at the moment, we're at a very crucial and critical point in the evolution of the earth and the world. And the world is going through a huge shift of consciousness. And astrology is showing us that. They're showing us that we're starting at the very beginning again, that things are pivoting, and we're about to go through these huge changes ourselves on a personal level, so the earth can shift and change, but it's sort of shaking everything up. So it can create chaos before it creates peace and calm. So a lot of the big major planets are about to move into a 0 degree point next year in 2026. Is like the Fool card in the tarot,
Yeah.
jumping into something very new. And the 0 degree of Aries is the very starting point of the zodiac. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac.
Sure.
0 is the very beginning. So these planets, they don't reach there very often. It's like,
Yeah.
Uranus might get there once every 84 years. So it's once in a lifetime for us kind of energy, or Neptune. So these planets are, some of them move faster than others, but this
Yeah.
is really significant. Astrology showing us that we're going through this profound reset, this profound new beginning, and it's up to us whether we want to go on the journey. We're being asked to call in to go through these huge shifts ourselves, to go through these layers of accelerated evolution. So many people are like going, okay, I want to create a podcast called Live My Jam, Live the
Yep.
Jam.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
want to find my soul purpose.
Yep.
And It really is a time for letting go of a lot of old stuff and stepping into the higher consciousness and connecting with that. And that's what astrology is showing us, the bigger shifts that are happening on the earth at this moment in time. And there are some really profound ones happening at this moment in time. And you can either go with the changes or you can remain in your little same ways. But I think if you remain in that sort of smaller, you're not going with the changes, then the changes might come to you as well.
Yep. I have
So,
some tower moments, some
yeah,
unseen tower moments. Tower moments aren't necessarily tower. I'm referring to a tarot card where it's, change happens and it can happen with more ease or grace. It's always going to be you have to work through it and it'll be to get you to a higher good, right? But it can be,
yeah,
I think the resistance is kind of the player there, right? How much you're resistant
yeah,
can make it harder or a little bit more in flow. Yeah. Oh, that's excellent to hear, in
exactly.
terms of
Yeah,
next year. 2026 is a big year. One of the
yeah,
things I see, and this is not astrologically, but just energetically, these kind of modalities, these ancient modalities like astrology and tarot, I find that people are much more open and accepting to them now. And again, I'm of the position that if it doesn't resonate with you, it's not my job to force it on you. My job is
yeah,
to speak what's working for me and try to help people and continue to do the work myself. And for those that it resonates with, they'll know. And
yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah,
that means that we're having coherence, right? This is a blueprint of where my soul is at this point in my life, is connecting with someone else's, and they want that vibration they want to hear, and then we're at coherence again, back to the whole energy piece. So what I'm buoyed by is that people are more accepting of astrology and tarot. I do think in the United States, the daily horoscope really hurt us. Because, it's this little snippet that we get in the newspaper, and people are like, that's ridiculous. And, they often are ridiculous. The complexity of astrology is very difficult to condense it down into one day. So I think in the US, that's kind of a lot of people are like, that's bunk. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't need to come along. But I would just encourage people who are listening, we're not talking about the daily astrology from the old newspapers in the US. There are many
yeah.
free places that you can go and get your natal chart and start to research on yourself and see what resonates for you. I want to know, Vivian, because you are so attuned. Like even when we talked briefly about getting on this, you really do use your intuition. You're just a living representation of that. It's very inspiring to me. So, what practices do you use to help you stay clear and connected to your intuition and your inner voice?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I meditate every day. I tune
Hmm.
in every day. I do readings every day. I
Yep.
channel every day, like I might record meditations for people every day.
Yep.
I also walk on the beach, getting
Yep.
out into nature, and also just making sure I have space for that connection with myself. I'm really tuning into the rhythms of what's going on for me, okay, what's going on in my life at this moment. So, the main really practical ones are to do with just a daily practice of meditation, finding space in nature, and then just being able to tune into myself at that point. They're the main ones. And I always tuning into my guides as well. Whenever I'm doing a reading, I'm like tuning in and saying, help me clear my energy or help me open my channel and what's going on. They're the main things. And just repeat, 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 repeat.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's what works.
Yeah. Yeah. Why
Yeah.
this is another Three of Pentacles representation. Those are my exact same. I think your connection to your guides, it's fine. I'm still working on mine. Is like laser crazy good. But again, nature for me, meditating every morning, I pull some tarot and being pretty methodical about that. As a matter of fact, if I can't get it in, I feel a little like, huh. If
Yeah.
I'm traveling or something happens, it doesn't have to be fixed, but I feel so connected and so full of love when I get to do that. And nature, I'm going to do a whole podcast on nature. She is, poof, I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
best. Yeah. All of her creatures, everything.
I agree with
So,
you though. It just grounds you down and it shouldn't be something that feels like I have to meditate today and I have to pull a card. Don't force yourself to do it. It should bring you joy. Like, so
yeah.
that might not be your thing, it might be
Yeah,
something
that's a good
different.
point.
I love having a wonderful, could be anything, something that just brings you joy that connects you. It's like, oh, I have the best cup of coffee every morning. That's something that just, I enjoy the taste of it. It makes me really present. I don't drink coffee. I'm not talking about myself, but could be somebody else's. thing that they really enjoy, the taste of something. Everyone's got their own thing. So yeah, don't force it if it's not feeling good, is what I'll
That's a
say.
really
But
good
yeah,
reminder. Thank you for saying that. I
yeah.
mean, Vivian and I just happen to share the same kind of things that help us connect. But I think it's a really good point. If the tarot is not resonating with you, don't do it, or whatever those things are to ground you and to get you to be quiet and so you can feel connected to yourself, and ultimately those are the things. And joy too. I mean, joy is a big part of it, although I feel more connected than I do joy when nature joy, yeah, is definitely part of that. But it's an interesting, I think we know, it's like when we know we're accessing the non-busy part of life is kind of a
Yeah.
good way to think about it. It's like
Yeah.
that was sweet and savored.
Yes. I love that. Just slowing down.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
So, how do
nice.
you
Yep.
personally live your jam? Like, I mean, that's what I always ask people. Living your jam is living from the inside out. So, what does alignment look like for you? We just talked about your kind of daily habits that keep you connected, but how would you describe your jam for people?
Well, it's just been able to live the life that I want to live, which is I'm just creating the life using my skills and abilities. There's no job out there that would advertise what my gifts are. I have to create that work myself and just be able to do that. And for me, there's no difference between what I do and embodying my intuition and living your jam. It's all one. It's not like I go to work and then I come back and live my jam when I go for a beach walk later in the afternoon. It's all wrapped up in one lifelong experience. And so for me, embodiment of living the life that I want to live is really what I would call living my jam, and to be able to go through these beautiful soul connected journeys, and whether they're good, bad, or challenging or joyful, to be able to live my life that way creates so much meaning and fulfillment for me. And to be able to connect to other people as well, that are still doing similar things, like connecting to you and what you're doing. I love hearing what all my clients are up to and what they're creating and connecting on that level. I think that that's really wonderful as well. So that's what Live Your Jam means to me. And I think it's such a great name as well for the
Thank you. It's a
podcast.
full embodiment. I can see that in the work that you do. And also, the world needs people like you, Vivian, that are helping other people tune in and really have the skills and the outlook and the personal experience themselves. So I thank you for helping others, because when I think about the shifts that are happening now, I think women are going to lead the way in terms of really teaching us how to reconnect to our hearts, how to live from the hearts, and to hopefully move away from the busyness. I mean, a lot of people are stuck. So I thank you for the work that you're doing and thank you for your time. I'm going to send links to Vivian's website. Her YouTube channel is outstanding. She has a lot of content on there that it's all high quality. Some of it's free. She has a Patreon community, which I'm a member of. It's a wonderful community of people. The content there is outstanding as well. And so Vivian has a lot, and she has courses, really high quality work, and really work helping others tune in and live their jam.
Well, thank you so much, Ellen. It was really lovely to receive all that and hear that. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was such a fun little chat, and I love chatting about all these things, and also really wonderful hearing your insights as well. And so thank you so much, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you for support and for being here. And everybody, this is Ellen and Vivian Greenline Goddess, and we're going to sign off here. And remember, be open minded if you can about tarot and astrology. They're wonderful tools to help you listen to your intuition and trust your inner wisdom. And if nothing else, there's a lot of symbolism in there that is just beautiful and really heartfelt. So thank you to everybody, and we're going to sign off.